I'm Oral Hershiser, and I am on the Blue Review. Hey, this is Sean Green. You're watching the Blue Review.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Monday morning. Welcome to another edition of the Blue Review presented by LAX. I'm Marcas Grant. That is Greg Bergman. And Greg, a pretty successful weekend for the Dodgers, but a lot to talk about through it all nonetheless.
Yeah, it was a very successful weekend, but yes, very much to talk about. And we're going to have Jeff Spiegel on here in just a second, and we're going to get into a little bit of basically everything.
Yeah, all right. We'll bring in our pal Jeff in just a second, but first I want to let you know the Blue Review is powered by LAX. We are taking off. Learn more about all the incredible changes happening now at LAX by going to lawa.org/ESPN. Without further ado, bring up our pal who normally is nice enough to join us on Mondays, the one and only Jeff Spiegel. Jeff, you said before the show that you have takes. I look forward to hearing the takes. How you feeling, man?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Glad to have a space. It's been like 10 days. I'm used to firing these off every few days. And, they've just been building up inside of me. So I'm excited to talk Dodgers today.
Yeah, nice and excited to talk Dodgers. But first, some crazy stuff happened over the weekend. You are no longer with Dodger Blue. So True. What happened? What's going on?
Yeah, the short version is I kind of posted this on social media. I have a full-time job that is not this, unfortunately, and that involves working with young people. And so I am not an anti-gambling person myself, but got asked to do some reads that I felt like would jeopardize what I do for my full-time job. And so we tried to work through some things, but ultimately it was not in my power, my control to decide my own future. And so they decided for me, and free agent. So I think I'll have some news in the next couple of weeks of what's next. But for now, I'm here talking Dodger baseball on the Blue Review. I created a YouTube channel, so if you want to go find Bleed Blue Live is the full title, I believe. You can find me there as a landing spot, but stay tuned.
Cool. Well, look forward to whatever is next. Obviously, enjoyed your stuff with Dodger Blue, and we're glad to have you here because we appreciate your takes too. And like you said, they've been building up, so we have to release this pressure. If
you got takes,
you got takes. An interesting weekend for the Dodgers. They win 2 out of 3 against the Texas Rangers. I guess we can start back on Friday night with what was a really dramatic night. The Max Muncy 3 home run performance, including the walk-off in the bottom of the 9th inning. But I guess, Jeff, what precipitated that was the Edwin Diaz, the first real Edwin Diaz meltdown that we have had so far this season. That was followed by talk about velocity dips. What is your concern level right now with Edwin Diaz?
I think you have to be somewhat concerned whenever there's a velocity dip. I would say the fact that he had been pretty dang effective up until this one outing, even with some diminished velocity, makes me a little less concerned. He's a veteran guy. He says he's not hurt. I was reading something like I think he kind of struggles with velocity buildup early in seasons historically as well. And I think if you're like a 100-mile-an-hour guy that's dipping down to like 96, that's a very different velocity drop than a guy who maybe lives at like, in the mid-90s dropping a little bit. So I'm not overly concerned, but I'm also any velocity drop is to take note of. We've seen this with Emmett Sheehan, and the good news is that his velocity seems to have bounced back. They seem to have found something. Fabian Ardaya at The Athletic had a great piece about that. So it's a something to monitor for me.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, I guess basically the long and short version, the short version of Edwin Diaz was, I'm not hurt, it's April. Who was it Sonia Chen, I believe, or somebody put out a chart of his average velocity by month. And at least by the numbers, it does show that April tends to be a ramp-up month for him. So after what you saw on Friday night, any real worries for you about Edwin Diaz?
No, I mean, I think like Jeff was saying, yeah, there's always some type of worry when velocity is at a lower level than where it needs to be. But the same time, if this is as historically how he has been, then no. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I did not pay attention to Edwin Diaz velocity in April when he was with the Mets. That wasn't my concern at the time. So, but I'm really not concerned if this is something that he typically goes through and will eventually get back to where he needs to be. So, I mean, this was the second time that we've seen something like this, because remember earlier in the season, he did come out in the rain and kind of got little bit, but that was because he was in the rain, and that was dumb to do just in general. I understand why they were doing it, but yeah, so I'm not concerned. But if this happens, if this keeps going on in May and June, then yes, that's when the concern really starts to hit.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, after the outing on Friday night, we didn't see him the rest of the weekend. They weren't good. I didn't think they were going to use him on Saturday anyway. I know that we were talking in the text chat about that. Was this sort of joking? Was this a demotion? Jeff, you and I, neither of us seemed surprised that he didn't get the call after what happened on Friday night. And Sunday, they just didn't have an opportunity to use him. So, yeah.
Real quick, by the way, I think it was looking at Jack Harris posted the velocity by month chart.
Okay.
That I think you were talking about. And if you look at it, it's like April's down here, and then it's just like, June is where it peaks. And then, but anyways, for what it's worth, April 2024 and in 2025, April was like by far his worst velocity month in both of the last two seasons. So,
I mean, in New York, that sort of makes sense. It's still kind of chilly. It's 70 degrees out here. Warm it up a little bit. I don't know. That's just me. Can I take my victory lap for Friday night?
You should. You absolutely need to take your victory lap. Like, this is not the first time you've done this either, Marcus. This is not. Over the 3 years now that you have been on the Blue Review, you have done this at a minimum of 5 times.
During the game last night, or Friday night, I should say, rather after the Edwin Diaz gives up 3 runs to tie it, and they go to the bottom of the ninth, I put in the text chat, Muncy walks it off with his 3rd homer of the night, and not even 10 minutes later, there we are. So, I guess we could have sent it to Carlo, but there were words in there that probably, he would have to scrub out and stuff. So, anyway, that's it.
Mostly from Greg, for the record, by the way. Probably was Greg.
It absolutely was me, because I'm the only one that uses those types of dirty languages. Not even with Trotto. He doesn't say anything either. I figured he'd be one that would.
There's a few, there's a level of professionalism that a few of us have, Greg, and we like having you around.
Yeah, sure. That's what
so anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to pat myself on the back for that one. Every now and then I run into one, and I ran into one on Friday night. So we're talking about velocity. I guess that gets us to Saturday and Emmett Sheehan, because, Jeff, you have been the one who has really watched this the closest out of the 4 of us, I would say. It looked like Emmett Sheehan's velocity was back. We saw on Saturday the Sheehan that I think we were used to seeing more of last year.
Totally. And this is why I say, like, it's always just something to monitor. I think we're trained like 90% of the time, unfortunately, in ends in injury when a guy's velocity is down like 2 miles an hour. But I think we had talked about on our show was the one thing that was nice was like he could get there at times. It just didn't feel like he could do it consistently or maybe from a sustained perspective. But Fabian had a great piece where they talked about they gave him an extra couple days in between starts. He got an extra bullpen session in. And they just felt like his mechanics were off. And like, hey, if we can get your mechanics dialed, then this will work. And so he gets an extra bullpen, figured some things out. I believe his average pitch velocity in that start was the exact same as it was last year for the first time. It was up like 1.5 miles or 2 miles an hour. And so that's a big deal, because I think if Sheehan is right and healthy, which he's been saying all the time for to his credit, I think that's going to be a huge boon for a Dodgers rotation that, they have a lot of depth, but at the same time, I think they're going to need him.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're absolutely going to need him. And, we sit and we, sort of nitpick at things, right? And we look at, Yama's been great. Shohei, even though it wasn't his best, still got through a pretty good start his last time around. Glass now has been pretty good so far. I think we're still trying to figure out what Roki is, and we'll get to Roki later in the show. But if Emmett Sheehan can come in and sort of solidify his place, I think, we are feeling slightly less anxious about this whole thing until Blake Snell comes back in and takes his spot back in the rotation, which, by the way, seemed like good news that he pitched a simulated game over the weekend. He faced Tommy Edman twice, once from the left side, once from the right side. But it seemed like there's progress being made on the Blake Snell front, so that is definitely a positive. Any other takeaways, Greg, from Saturday before we move on to
No, I mean,
on Sunday?
I think to your point, I do think that having Emmett Sheehan be in a good space and pitching well is a big weight off your shoulders because, look, we're going to get to Roki Sasaki. That was, I don't even know what you want to call that outing. It turned out okay, but it wasn't all that okay. There's a lot of stuff that go on when it comes to that. And then the other part, like, Glasnow kind of got lit up on Friday, or he kept getting hit. He gave him some home runs, and they were all his fault too. Like he put a middle fastball towards to
a 2-strike one to Corey Seager, yeah,
2-strike middle fastball that he was like, oh, thank you for this cookie, and just destroyed the ball. So I don't know. He's a little bit up and down for me. I still trust him. He's a great number 4 starter, like we talked about last year, which is crazy to say. But yeah, I think there's like Justin Robleski. You don't know what you're going to get every single time out. So I think it's nice to have somebody that is solidified as long as he can stay in that spot. But otherwise, everything from Saturday, it was a lot of. I thought Teo was good. It was nice. Yeah, nice to see some Teo action. So besides that, yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing with Glasnow, you mentioned the fastball he gave up to Seager and just got crushed. The other home run, I felt like just a kind of an interesting piece of hitting. I can't remember who was it that hit the second one, but that one didn't seem like as much of a mistake, but it mattered in the end.
Was it off of a curveball, Jeff? To give it up to.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's like some of these things got blocked out of my memory. Sorry, my dog's trying to open my door over here.
It was Wyatt Langford.
Wyatt Langford. That's right.
Who has been terrible, by the way. On my fantasy team. That guy has been absolute trash. And then I throw him on my bench and he hits a home run off the Dodgers. Terrible stuff.
But they get through that one nonetheless and get the win on Saturday night with Alex Vesia closing it out on his birthday as well, too.
Do we think, by the way, that Dave Roberts, because it was his birthday, just threw him in? I believe it was Chad Moriyama that threw this out there that like Trinan's in, and there was a lefty up, but it definitely seemed like when Dave came to take Trinan out, he said something and Trinan like looked at him confused and he was like, oh, okay. And then there's some theories that like Dave was like, it's his birthday. Let's get this guy in here. I don't know. Are we buying that, Greg?
No, I'm not buying it. Well, I mean, it may be just a little bit because that's the type of guy that Dave is. They were saying later, I mean, everything they say post game is all nonsense anyway. But like, no, he was just trying to save his arm. He was at over 20 pitches, blah, 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 blah. So yes, I'm changing everything. I'm fully buying it. It was his birthday, and Alex Vesia has been phenomenal, and him coming back has been great. So yeah, I'm in.
I mean, if you want to get the birthday boy some work, would you do it with a couple of guys on where things could go south in a hurry? I don't know.
Well, early season, no warm-up time. I mean, that was the thing. Like, he was pumping 89-mile-an-hour fastballs, and Fabian was like, I mean, he didn't warm up for very long. It was kind of a mess, but it worked, so we're good.
It worked. It was fine. So, all right, let's get to Sunday because that was sort of the more intriguing part of this whole thing. The Dodgers lose on Sunday. They, fail to get the sweep, but they do take 2 out of 3. So that's the positive in that one. We were discussing Roki Sasaki in the chat about sort of how to evaluate the start. And I think what we came upon is that we need real ERA and feels like ERA, sort of like in your weather app, right? So, I mean, Jeff, what did it look like versus what it felt like with Roki?
Yeah, I think this is where Greg and I are just going to debate whether or not Roki was good because Greg hates all analytics. And so we're going to look at the fact that he only gave up 2 runs. And so Greg's going to tell us that Roki was awesome yesterday because he only gave up 2 runs. And I'm going to tell you about all the expected stuff behind
such a mischaracterization. How dare you even try to do that? Go
ahead. Here's my take on Roki Sasaki. As I watch the game, it's very, very simple, I've realized with him. When he gets ahead in the count, he's very good. Like when Roki Sasaki has 2 strikes on you, it's pretty much a wrap because he can spam the splitter, whatever we're calling this, forkball, splitter, whatever you want to call it. He can just spam it. It's never going to be in the zone, but there's basically no chance major league hitters are going to be able to lay off that pitch 2 or 3 times in a row because it's going to look like a strike and then it's going to dive off. The flip side is if he gets behind in the count, he's very, very bad. And the problem is he gets behind in the count a lot. I believe the stat was 13 out of 22 hitters that he faced, he was behind in the count. And so if it's a 2-0 count, you're just staring at the splitter and saying, there's no chance that thing's ever landing in the zone. I'm looking fastball, and if it's not a fastball, I'm not swinging. And I think that's the dichotomy of Roki Sasaki. His in-zone rate is one of the worst in Major League Baseball. Like, I've used this stat before. If he had the in-zone rate he's had this season, it's like 40%. For the entire year last year, he would have ranked 339 out of 340 pitchers as far as how many of his pitches land in the zone. The flip side is he does get elite swing and miss on his pitches, and he's been getting some chase as well. That's the only reason it's not dramatically worse. And so it always comes back to, can he be in the zone more? Like, if he can get ahead in counts 2/3 of the time, I think this thing can work. But every time it's a 1-0 or a 2-0 count, it's like you might as well just let the guy walk to first base, because that might be better than the extra base hit that could be coming if he's sitting fastball.
6 walks yesterday, or 5 walks yesterday for Sasaki in 4 innings pitched. Did have the 6 strikeouts, so it is sort of the good and bad of Roki Sasaki watching it. So, I mean, through all of that, though, Greg, yeah, all the expected numbers were bad, but he also was sort of like Neo in the Matrix, just dodging bullets. The fact that he only gave up 2 runs, Greg, is kind of a miracle yesterday.
It was a miracle. And by the way, was that his XIZR plus? Is that you were going through for the in zone rate?
Yeah, I forgot to get approval about in zone rate. If that's
I know you got actually, I do really like that stat. That was one of the ones I'm a big fan of. I'm going to pay attention to the XIZR plus from now on. But no, he's absolutely right. This was a very wild outing for Roki Sasaki. He threw, I think he was somewhere around 90 pitches through 3 innings, or he was like 80 pitches through 3 innings. And then he somehow got through a 4th inning pretty much unscathed. So they got him through 4 innings, but it was shocking that they were able to. It just, he cannot find the plate at times. It's such a different outing than the outing before. So the outing before, he gave up 6 runs, and I thought to myself, that was actually a really encouraging start. Despite the 6 runs, he actually looked better. For the most part, it was 2 bad pitches that turned into home runs. But this one was the complete opposite. He only gave up 2 runs, but it looked like a bad outing. So he's one of those guys that kind of go back and forth with whether or not he can find the plate. He gave up, I think, was it 5 walks, 6 walks?
Yes, five walks on Sunday.
Five walks. That's like, you can't get through a major league outing and expect to go deep into a game with 5 walks. So when he's actually attacking the zone and being able to land those pitches and get to the 2 strike counts, like Jeff is talking about, then I feel better about it. It's not so, I mean, obviously you don't want the runs to get scored upon, but I was more encouraged by his outing than the last one than I was with this one.
Can we get some ESPN LA people? I want to clip out what Greg just said, because he just made the case for analytics, and he doesn't realize that he just made the case for analytics. And
you think
Greg
I don't know what I'm talking about?
Analytics. Greg just said, I don't care about the earned runs. He looked worse this time than he did last time, and I loved every second. So if we could just clip that out for socials and say Greg has full in on under the hood expected numbers, I'm here for it.
I don't know how you got to this world where you think that all analytics are bad, and I don't listen to any analytics or look at any numbers. It's just, again, eye test. All the analytics and eye tests are pretty much the same. I just don't have a fancy X banana number for it or an XIZR plus.
I love it.
I'm going to have a list by the end of the year of different stats that you create, and I'm going to make them and see if they actually match up to what Fangraphs or Baseball Reference come up with.
You'll have the good Greg stats and the bad Greg stats, and you just let us know.
XIZR plus, I guarantee you, is not a thing.
I'm going to look this up. I'm totally going to look this up. But in the meantime, yeah, Roki got through it. After the game, my wife was like asking me, so like, did he do good? And I was like, it's complicated. Could have been better. It could have been worse. I think the end result, though, is he's going to continue to work through this, and he's going to continue to work through this in the Dodger rotation. And so I think that's another reason why it was really good to see Emmett Sheehan sort of bounce back on Saturday, because I feel like, Jeff, you go into a Roki Sasaki start knowing you're going to have to use the bullpen. You ideally want to get through 4 innings with him, but essentially a Roki start right now is kind of a bullpen game.
Yeah, I think that's the scary part. And I think the Dodgers can, to some degree, live with like the 6.2 ERA. It's just we need like 4 cannot be the ceiling. I know he went 5 innings the outing before, like we were talking about, but that's why I kind of agree with Greg. Like 2 outings ago, it was 8 base runners in 5 innings. This one was, I believe, like 11 base runners in 4 innings. And so when the pitch count gets that high and it's that stressful, then all of a sudden 5 innings from a bullpen where Justin Robleski is in the rotation. So you don't have the long guy who can piggyback or something like that. That is by far, if you're Dave Roberts, I would guess they are way more concerned about, buddy, we need length than they are about like, the home runs or something like that. Not to say they aren't concerned about the home runs, but we would love to get Roki Sasaki at least pitching into the 6th inning just to save ourselves a few pitches on the guys, the arms in the bullpen.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we saw Henriquez try to get through 2. Couldn't do that. The parade ended up with Dreyer, Kasparius, and Will Klein finally closing things out. That's sort of where we are right now.
And you saw, by the way, all those guys were fairly ineffective with the exception of Dreyer, but all of the ineffectiveness came because it felt like they were stretched like 2 batters too long. Like they came in good, and then it was like, all right, Enriquez, can you go back out for a 2nd inning? And then it goes sideways, and it's like, Kasparius, can you go back out for a 2nd inning? And it goes sideways. Klein was stretched. So I think you saw the real-time effects last night.
100%. Before we can move on from there, Marcus, sorry, we only have a couple minutes left. Can we talk about Kyle Tucker?
That's exactly where I was heading now.
Right.
So, it has been not the greatest start for Kyle Tucker. The slug has not really been there. He did drive in a run with a base hit late in the game yesterday, but Greg, it's been a struggle to watch Kyle Tucker. He looks tentative at the plate. He's sort of chasing pitches. He looks like he's guessing. I think in the long term it's going to work out, but man, April has not been kind to him.
No, April has been pretty bad for him. And his numbers, he actually has, it's not completely terrible, but at the same time, it's what he is. He has 16 strikeouts on the season. He has never had more than, I think, 95 strikeouts in a full season that we talked about. 16 strikeouts this year. That's pretty high for a guy that doesn't strike out that much. Never hit 100 strikeouts in a season before. And so this is now looking like he's obviously pressing. And I don't know really why he would be. Like he's trying, because he has this $60 million contract. Maybe he's trying to live up to it. But he's swinging pretty wildly, and he's swinging at pitches that typically he would not be. He's known for his patience at the plate, and that's just not what it is right now. So this isn't a Conforto level thing for me yet. He's not the villain just yet, but I trust that he will figure it out. He's too good of a hitter to not figure it out. But right now he's on the struggle bus, and he definitely needs to start actually going through whether it's mechanics or just waiting on some pitches, but pitches that are at his feet, he should not be swinging at over and over again.
On pace for 172 strikeouts. I mean, again, it's way early, but that's what the on pace number is for him right now. I mean, Jeff, is it reasonable to think maybe he gets moved down in the lineup at this point?
The Dodgers tend to be really slow with that, so I would bet he hangs around there for a while. But yeah, I mean, looking into the strikeout numbers, because obviously the strikeout rate's up like 7%, looking under the hood. So whiff rate last year, swing and miss 20.2%, this year 27.1%. Chase rate last year 17.5%, this year 24%. And then a couple interesting numbers: first pitch swing percentage. 36% last year, 36% of the time swung at the first pitch. This year, he's swinging 58% of the time at the very first pitch. His overall swing rate, 45% last year, 54% this year. So to me, that's the profile of a guy who signed the biggest AAV contract ever, not named Shohei Ohtani, and who's trying to prove his worth on every single swing and every single at bat. And so the hope is, as the season settles in and he takes a deep breath, he's able to say, okay, I can go back to being the Kyle Tucker that they signed rather than trying to be Superman every single time.
Yeah. I mean, that is just the feel. Like he really is, especially when Shohei does things. It's like, well, now I've got to match Shohei, and like, buddy, nobody's matching Shohei. Just be Kyle Tucker, and that's all he needs. That's all he needs to do. So we'll see. Excuse me. Dodgers back at home tonight. They will start a 3-game series against the New York Metropolitans, who, by the way, just got swept by the West Sacramento A's over the weekend. Go figure. No Juan Soto this week either. He is still dealing with a calf injury. So we'll see anyway as it starts tonight, 7:10 first pitch time from Dodger Stadium. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Jeff, as always, man, it's good to see you on a Monday, man. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'm here on Mondays regardless. I told Greg, I said, hey, if you want to can me too, you're welcome to find some new blood for this. But Greg and Marcus were generous, and they said, we don't care if you're recording out of somebody's basement. You're always welcome here.
Especially because if you're gonna rile Greg up about advanced stats, then that's gonna make the mornings a lot more fun. So
it'll make it more fun for me too. So please.
So anyway, stick around for the Sedano and Cap Morning Extravaganza coming up next. Thanks to Carlo for production assistance. But that'll do it for this edition of the Blue Review, presented by LAX. For Jeff, for Greg, I am Marcus. We will see you tomorrow, 6:30 to 6:55, right here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. Yeah.